Welcome to the Wealth Tech Insider. This is a podcast about wealth and technology, what's changing, what's getting overcomplicated, and what actually matters once the noise dies down. We talk about real decisions in wealth tech, the tools, the trade-offs, and the human side of trying to make change stick. If you're curious about where this space is heading, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wealth Tech Insider. I'm your host, Danny Legrand, and very happy to be joined by my co-host, Peter Warren. How you doing, Pete?
Hey, Danny. Good as always.
That's good. All right, we're going to run through another Code and Capital, the content fuel injection for these podcasts at the moment. So thank you very much for that. We're calling this one Boot Off Stage or Read the Room, something like that. But let's just set the scene because we've got a couple of videos to add into this podcast today, which is exciting. It's a first for us. So someone copped a booing. According to your last Code and Capital. So we'll set the scene. There was a stadium full of arts and journalism graduates in the States, I believe. And the exec on stage calls AI the next industrial revolution, and the crowd boos. And she looks behind her like, what the hell happened? Isn't this the most amazing thing that ever hit the world? And then days later, there was another booing as well with Eric Schmidt worth 54 billion, I think, US, telling students they'd shape how AI develops. So I guess this isn't a college story that we're about to talk through. It's about, is it about every firm that's about to roll AI out to its team? So let's have a look at this video and see what happens.
Now, that said, we are living in a time of profound change. That's an understatement, right? Profound change. Change is exciting, very exciting, and let's face it, change can be daunting. The rise of artificial intelligence is the next industrial revolution. Oh. Whoa. What happened? Okay, I struck a chord. May I finish?
She sure struck a chord. Poor Gloria.
Oh, that's
Did you
difficult
hear
to watch.
Did you hear one of the students yell out, "AI sucks"? Hats off to that young man in the crowd for adding some further context to the booing.
Candidness. Oh, that's tricky to watch. Okay, what happened, Gloria?
Oh, look, I think Gloria's probably learned some hard lessons here. I think she's been, unfortunately, I feel for Gloria because she's become a bit of a meme, so to speak, about reading the room with AI and misjudging perhaps what the younger generation feel about AI. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of counterintuitive because I think every other technology revolution, it's typically young people who are the most embracing, the most enthusiastic, but AI's just got a different flavour to it. I'd be keen to know what your kids think, Danny, about it. But I think the challenge is that you're talking to a group of college graduates who have probably just dropped $150,000 of money and got into student debt on an education, and I've probably got next to no idea about where their job prospects are going to come from.
Yeah, I've got my daughters are 15 and 25, so quite different perspectives and different, obviously, phases in life. My 25-year-old is the cautious one. She's standoffish about AI. Her partner is works in cybersecurity, so they have really interesting conversations about the realities of some of this stuff. She's a vet nurse, so she uses AI for file note taking and all that sort of stuff, but that's really about as far as it goes. She's really not interested in pursuing it outside of that. And then my young, oh gosh, she would never listen to this anyway. So I think, it really helps with schoolwork and assessments and things like that. But I've noticed, and I told you guys this the other day, they've really come down hard on AI at school. So they actually shut down Copilot the other day.
Copilot.
And it was a nightmare for students that have got used to using it for a hand. But they're also putting some really good guardrails up in place, good guardrails for me as a parent. So yeah, different perspectives, but I think that's probably the only use case for her, really, other than making funny pictures with ChatGPT, really.
Yeah.
But I think there is a real fear there. Also, they have had a talking to at their school about careers that are perhaps not worth pursuing into the future,
Okay.
which has been interesting as well. Yeah.
I mean, like in certain respects, I'm glad that they've confronted it and not
Mm.
treated the kids, patronised the kids by saying everything's going to be fine. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that talk, actually, to hear what was said.
Mm.
But I can understand. I mean, it's such an uncertain time in your life, and you want to get out there and carve your own path. And you're looking at house prices, you're looking at cost of living, you're looking at lots of things, and to not even have a certain job environment must be. And here's the real problem. I think you're looking at a lot of people becoming spectacularly wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say a lot of people, I'm talking about the 1% of the 1% of the 1%.
Poor people.
And so this is, and I guess this brings me to something else I want to share, which is, this booing hasn't just been an isolated incident; it's becoming a pattern. So at another graduation ceremony, and this is what these US colleges do: they get these famous or not so famous tech entrepreneurs or comedians in to give a speech to the students to make what is normally a really boring graduation ceremony mildly interesting. And they've become quite famous. Like there's some very famous speeches, like Steve Jobs' Stanford graduation speech is extremely famous, which was actually talking about how short life is, and he was obviously dying with cancer at the time. And there's been some great comedian ones as well, which are well worth your time on YouTube. I won't bore you with them today, but the one I just want to play a couple of clips from is from Eric Schmidt. So Eric Schmidt was effectively employee number 3 or 4 at Google. He became the CEO of Google for many years. He's fabulously wealthy. His wealth is in the many hundreds of billions of dollars. So just someone who has benefited enormously from technology and now sits in a wonderful position of influence on that. And even he struggled to read the room. So let's just take a listen to what he said. Now, I should preface it. This speech was after poor Gloria got booed off the stage.
Oh, so he should have known better.
So he's either in a bit of a bubble, Eric, which is probably true, or again, thought he might be above it and people might listen to him.
Last December, Time magazine selected its Person of the Year for 2025. And this time, it was the architects of artificial intelligence. Interesting. So today we stand on this edge of another technological transformation, one that will be larger, faster, and more consequential than what came before. It will touch every profession, every classroom, every hospital, every laboratory, every person, and every relationship you have. I know what many of you are feeling about that. I can hear you. There is a fear. There is a fear in your generation that the future has already been written, that the machines are coming, that the jobs are evaporating, that the climate is breaking, that politics is fractured, and that you are inheriting a mess that you did not create. And I understand that fear. It's rational. And it's amplified every day by social media platforms with algorithms that have learned with great precision that fear earns clicks and that anxiety drives engagement.
I might just stop it there.
Oh,
he tries to talk his
Eric.
way out of it by blaming the social media companies.
Oh, Lordy. That was tricky to watch. How out of touch can you be with your audience? My goodness. How can he possibly relate to everything they're going on? He's a billionaire.
Yeah, I mean, look, fair play to him. He kind of stood his ground and he wasn't rattled by the booing. Maybe he expected it. Maybe he was told, hey, look, if you go with this speech, you're going to get booed.
I wouldn't be rattled either if I was a billionaire.
Yeah.
Just walk on stage and hop in my helicopter and fly away.
A lot of those people are completely impervious to external emotions. But it's all well and good. As you say, it's all well and good for someone to say, "I feel your pain. I understand how rational that is." But the reality is that I think what his core messages were is that you feel that you're inheriting this mess. You feel that you're inheriting. No, they are heading straight. This is reality.
Literally.
This is not a perceived reality. It is a reality. And so we have to do better talking to young people about
But
the future.
like the way that he even started that was, it's going to be in your personal lives, it's going to be in the hospitals, it's going to be in the classrooms, it's going to be in the office, it's going to, it's not a way to sort of, give comfort to those people that are graduating and going out into the world, talking about something that they're fearing and then telling them it's going to be everywhere that they look. So I guess this sort of leads us into, I think the people that are most certain that AI is inevitable and that resistance is perhaps irrational are the people who really suffer nothing. If it goes wrong, they own the equity, they sit on the boards, they're going to be fine. And I think that downside does land somewhere else, which is, the graduates and the juniors and the associates being asked to prove their vibe coding worth out of pure job insecurity. And I must say, Pete, you and I are seeing this a fair bit lately with our consulting clients, in that the PYs, as in the advisors doing their professional year, aspiring advisors doing their professional year, are vibe coding, and they're building AI solutions. And we already see that they're trying to prove their worth, right?
Yes. Yep.
Which is, I kind of find that quite sad.
Yeah, I mean, I think I wrote about it the following week, that this vibe stacking phenomenon that's starting to happen, and probably at the fringes, we probably see the best and the worst of it, I suppose. So we're probably, in direct traffic of these things. But I think it's such a good point, Danny. Like, I think you're right. They're doing it not because they really woke up that morning and they want to build a better version of X-Plan using Claude. I think they just go, you know what, I've got to be relevant here, so I'm just going to do this. So I don't blame them for a second for that.
No, I don't blame them. And I feel for them, if they, they really want to reach their goals of being an advisor, this is not the way to do it.
Yeah.
So, I guess it's being shoved at people without their consent a lot in our world, and maybe without transparency either, and without acknowledging the uncertainty it's created for them. And 100% of my clients at Finura at the moment are AI services clients, and that is really true. I think we build these agents, and I was talking to one of our clients yesterday, and he's an awesome guy. He's an associate, and he's like, the file note agent is so good. I don't want to say anything, but I think it might have replaced me. Haha. It was a bit of a joke. But I think there is a really valid fear that that those junior team members are probably experiencing there. And the narrative out there, right? The news is saying, junior positions are going to be gone. It's a problem that junior positions are going to be evaporating because of AI. AI is going to take over those jobs. We're left in quite a pickle if that does play out the way that it's being perceived.
I think, yeah. I mean, behind every joke's a bit of truth, right? And so, or fear or anxiety, we use humour often to deal with our anxiety. And this is I feel this is an issue that business has to get its head around. So firstly, business leaders need to get their head around what's our story on this front. Now, the reality is that unless we plan to sell our businesses to AI bots in the future, who's inheriting what we're building? Like at the end of the day, for people go into business for lots of reasons, but mostly it's financial. But then at a certain point, it becomes about legacy and other things that are important to them. And like Lord knows I didn't start Finura for the money, but I think one of the things that but one of the things I do find enormously rewarding, and I know you do too with the work we do, is when you actually see the impact that your efforts have on other people. So if it's those projects you've done where you've gotten businesses out of a mess and you've made people feel more confident about what they're doing and they get good results and all those things we see dripping through and the feedback's awesome. For me, it's about creating jobs and opportunities and a better workplace that people maybe wouldn't have been able to get through traditional career paths. And I see that as something that that actually kind of keeps the fire burning for me a little bit to be able to potentially offer opportunities for these people who might feel a bit displaced. But I think unless you get this story right as a business owner, and I am seeing it like businesses, CEOs in particular, just running rampant on Claude with little regard or strategy behind it, and then everyone just sort of wants to play along. It's a bit like when the boss used to work till 10 o'clock at night, everyone works at 10 o'clock at night. If the boss goes out and gets pissed every afternoon at 5:30, everyone goes out and gets pissed at 5:30. This is all, so our behaviour and our attitude to AI is going to have a really big impact on how our organisation adopts and thinks and uses AI. And what we can't have, what I don't want in our business is people spending all day on AI doing pointless busy work, creating lots of stuff, but actually achieving nothing.
Yeah, definitely. I think the way that this translates into advice, we know with our data. Actually, we talked about this last week at the Ensemble PD Day, which was really great. The firms that rate their tech change very successful, so this is our technology health check data, have the lowest integration scores, so the way that they integrate their apps in their tech stack, and the weakest advice production scores, but the highest AI scores. So, the leaders, and we know that it's leaders because we know who is primarily doing our health check, it's business owners. They've declared the victory, but the plumbing, really does tell a different story there.
Yeah, I think, like, let's not throw the good out with the bad. Like, I feel, no one enjoys doing file notes. No one enjoys doing spreadsheets. I don't enjoy reading, when Aaron sends me P&Ls and things to look at. And I do like the fact I can use Copilot to help me answer 5 or 6 key questions or give me some trends to, makes me better at my job, helps me prepare for meetings, and maybe helps me get some of the really bad ideas out of my head before I go and share them with the team, as a thought partner. But there's still so many other jobs to be done in a business. And I sort of want to bring it back to our world, which is, in any industry like ours, it's fundamentally selling an intangible. So whether we're consulting or in financial advice, you're not really selling a tangible good. There's no, someone doesn't walk in and walks home with an item. You're selling an intangible, so a future outcome, a promise, whatever you call it. You have to sell those things successfully. You need to be good at a couple of key things. I think first one is you have to be really good at getting information out of people. Now, AI can only do that so well. If we know that, like, a lot of people's context. So within an organization, even when you put AI through an entire company, attach it to Copilot, have all the stuff fed in, I would still argue 70% of an organizational's memory is in people's brains still about how things really work in here.
Yeah.
There's that side. And then there's the other side with the client. The client, often I reckon it could take an advisor 4 or 5 meetings to get to really know a client, beyond a risk profiling questionnaire and all that. You get to know how a client really responds in different situations. So I don't know whether AI is ever going to necessarily take that piece over. Maybe it could, but I feel that we need to be ensuring that we have people in our businesses that are empathetic, who can get that information to our clients, and anyone who is making effectively an intangible buying decision, at least for the next however long, I think is going to want to make those decisions dealing with a human. If you do not have those people in your business, you're in trouble, quite frankly. And so I feel that, in the end, this comes back to that. Are we creating cultures where staff feel that they have to show their value by how they use AI versus how they serve your customers?
Yeah.
Does a customer care that you've vibe coded a new version of X plan? No, doesn't give a shit.
No.
So I feel like these are business fundamental 101s, but I would rather one of our team spend a lot more time thinking about how can we just make our experience just that little bit better for our clients and memorable and all those things, versus just vibe coding something a little bit better, a widget creating work. That's just my take,
Yeah, definitely. And I think too, junior staff still want to work somewhere they feel respected and not, optimized. And, talented people still leave firms that treat them like an expense, and they join the ones that treat them, like the point. So I think you said this in the Code and Capital as well. They're not going to stick around to be made redundant by a tool their CEO bought without asking them. Gosh,
Totally.
so true.
Yeah, and we're seeing so many articles of this phenomenon of token maxing. You know, people literally spending their day making sure they're using enough AI, so they end up on some report on a scorecard that they've used enough AI. I mean, how stupid! Like, honestly, like, talk about not measuring the outcome, measure the inputs.
Does Facebook do that?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I think lots of companies have started. I think some stupid management consultant, probably at McKinsey or someone, has actually said, "Oh, let's, you should put in a KPI around how much they use their tokens, AI they are." I mean, honestly,
That's crazy.
Yeah, but it's really common. Maybe when these token bills start adding up, maybe they might change their mind. I don't know. But it's no wonder there's companies getting surprise bills from Claude for hundreds of thousands of dollars because someone's left a coding agent go for 3 weeks without telling anyone. So it's just madness. Some of this stuff, just absolute madness. And I think that anyone that tells you that a company isn't ultimately determined by its people is just deluded, quite frankly, on that side. So I guess the whole spirit of the article was just that, most of our clients, our industry, we can be better than big tech. We don't have to be this way, and I think, if AI is going to deliver on its alleged promise of being able to offer us all this extra efficiency and scalability, we don't necessarily have to run businesses where all those profits just fall to the bottom line and out the door to a shareholder for them to spend on more AI. It can actually be reinvested in the talent in the organization, more customers, more customer serving, customer facing people. There's got to be stories around that. We've got to be doing a better job of telling. I think it's relevant to give uni students some guidance that in order to have probably a long-term career, you've got to learn to be good with people. Develop your people skills. I think that's a critical element. But that's advice probably you and I got, Danny, back in the day.
Oh yeah, I think remember Cedric Ostrovsky?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a name you don't hear very often.
I know. He was all about the relationship, all about building the relationship with the advisors, because I was in the state office, and it was all about that. Obviously, tech didn't really exist back in those days. Well, it did. We had a big computer. But it absolutely wasn't the core focus of any of this. It was all about our relationships. And remember the culture back then, it was all about the culture and the licensee, and that's why people stuck around. And
And I reckon none of that's changed, by the way. Like I look at so many businesses we talk to and we ask them, why do you deal with so-and-so company and why do you deal with them? And if they were making a decision purely based on rational criteria, they wouldn't work with those people. They wouldn't work with that organization. It's too expensive. It's not great, or it's average service for way too much. But they stayed because they're emotionally engaged. They like working with that organization, whatever the thing is. So I just think, and that's always down to people, 100% down to people. So I just think the really smart the college admission speech or the college graduation speech shouldn't even mention AI at all. It should mention the fact that, like I learned when I did my master's, like I reckon I got a little value out of doing an MBA. I spent a shitload of time and money on it. But you know what I got some really good relationships out of it. Some contacts, some people who saw me at my best and my worst, who I can talk confidentially to about pretty much anything in my business or personal life. And we have these little interesting relationships. They're not in our day-to-day, but I can call them anytime. And that's so invaluable to me. And so I think that's what probably needs to be discussed more for these graduates of how to do that. And I still feel that even those roles, like hospitals, I mean, how many good doctors have you met over the years who I'm sure ace all the exams, but their shit bedside table is just shit. They're horrible.
Says, don't get it. I had a surgery once, and I was, I don't know why. This is only as an adult, like only a few years ago, and I was in recovery, and I woke up in a bit of pain, and I started to cry, but I think it was the anesthetic and everything wearing off. So I was starting to like blabber cry. It was embarrassing. And the surgeon came in and saw me, and he just tapped me lightly on the shoulder and went, they're there really awkwardly, and called the nurse over and walked away.
there's something really wrong with her. She's crying. It's just a side effect of the anaesthetic.
He was like, I can't deal with this. Get her out of here.
Yeah, funny enough, when you meet a doctor who's got good bedside manner, you remember them for life.
You do.
And people talk about them. And I've just known since having children, the GPs that have been great with my kids, I want to go back to them all the time.
Yeah.
They're the ones I want to go back to because they're great with my kids. So I
Yeah.
sort of, I don't know. I don't think that's something that's going to go away. If it does, I think it'd be a very sad day, and it'll also throw away millions of years of human instinct that's been ingrained in us to feel a certain way. So anyway, look, I shared the thing because I just think that we are spending way too much time talking about AI in quite broad sweeping statement without actually sort of understanding that there's real people behind the scenes that are feeling a whole range of mixed emotions about AI, depending on what's happening that particular day. And I'd say anyone going through a fairly big life career change or something like that is going to feel a high level of anxiety about any external factor that's going to potentially impact their outcome. And I'd say that a uni graduate or someone finishing high school would be a prime example of that. And I think that business leaders, I think, need to think really carefully about their language.
Have some empathy
issues.
around that, how they how they could be feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. And you get this from change management, right, Danny? I mean, you roll out agents, right? That example. I mean, surely you've heard different views about AI behind the scenes, implied or not implied.
Yeah. I always thought rolling out AI agents would be easier than our big, our huge technology change projects. But it's the same thing. You're still dealing with people who are fearful, people who are skeptical, people of, maybe angry that they haven't been heard in the past, and all those sorts of things. So yeah, I think tread gently is the moral of the story for this one.
I
All
think
right.
so.
Thanks, Pete. Thank you for joining me today. And that was an interesting conversation. And thank you, everyone, for listening. If you want to see how you're going with your technology in your firm, you can take our tech health check. That might give you some things to think about and some conversation starters to have with your team members as well, especially your junior ones. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time. That's it for this episode of the Wealth Tech Insider. If today's conversation got you thinking about your own technology setup, what's working, what's clunky, or what's quietly slowing things down, we've built a technology health check you can find on our website. It's a practical way to understand where you're at with tech and where it makes sense to focus without turning it into a major project straight away. If the episode was useful, feel free to share it or subscribe for future conversations, and thank you for listening.